basic training. I wrote basic training because there's certain rules, etiquette, guidelines, things that guys should know. And back in the day, it would be passed down. Knowledge would be passed down from dad to son, uncle to son, players to son, to guys, older guys to younger guys. Guys that had experience would sometimes just take a younger guy with them, along with them as their wingman or their sidekick. It was another name for it, because you need one. You need a sidekick. You need a buddy when you're out. But one of the basic rules is, when you're looking for women, if you're getting serious, look at what her dad did for a living to see what type of schedule she'll expect. If he was home by 5:30 for dinner every night, and your career requires 4 days of travel during the week, you are in for a bad time. It's a rule of thumb where we give you these basic ideas and these basic rules to help you avoid. They can't help it. What women grow up with is what they tend to expect as adults. And guys do the same thing, just I think it's a little less obvious, but it's something that you can guide yourself through. I see it time and time again. In fitness, in my business, no one gets off at 5 o'clock ever. I mean, maybe 30 years into it, you've got a full staff, you've gone through 10 managers, you burnt the place to the ground and rebuilt it 3 times. Then you've got enough people that you've known for a decade that you can leave at 5 o'clock. And even then, you still have to watch it like a hawk. But generally, every man in fitness, at some point, if he's married with kids come along, goes through my wife wants me home at 5:30. I can't be home at 5:30 because there's no fucking way I'm going home at 5:30. That's when everybody shows up to buy. So it causes aggravation. Now, if a girl comes out of a business where her dad ran a restaurant and she worked at that restaurant every evening after school from 5 o'clock to 9 o'clock, she's not really going to put up much of a fuss, if any. But if her dad was always home by 5 and they had dinner and he was like sitting on the couch with a paper or taking her to dance or whatever, she's going to expect that. That's where you start running into problems. You have to look at what her father did and what his schedule looked like to get an idea of what her expectations are. And then you can kind of like start couching what's realistic. Just, hey, honey, my business, my industry, we're never home in the evening. Is that something you could handle? You want to kind of get ahead of these things, or it's like giving bad news. You want to get ahead of it. That way it doesn't slap you in the face when you have 2 kids and she's like burning the house down because you're not home by 6 when you're actually sitting down with a family of 4 that wants to buy from you. So know that no women, consciously or unconsciously, will expect your schedule to be like what she grew up. It's kind of like the first time you eat over at somebody else's house and you don't realize that other people's food tastes differently. That shock. Women also will experience that shock when they realize that your schedule is nothing like what she grew up with. Like, you're never home, or you travel 4 days a week. It's one of the reasons that the military life is so abrasive, because she's having to pack up every 2 years and he's literally never home. And there's this thing that like guides his life, and it's not her. And she's used to her dad, working at GM and going to the 3 to 11 and he'd be back. And then there's always predictable, and they lived in the same house their entire life. So it's different, and anything different is going to cause stress and concern. So that's a real deal. If you're getting somewhat serious, you have a career that's a little bit different or challenging, and especially today, especially with 24/7, look at what her dad did for a living to see what type of schedule she expects. It doesn't mean what she'll have to have, but what she will expect. If he was home by 5:30 for dinner every night and your career requires 4 days of travel, or you're actually absolutely never home till 9 or 10 at night, then you're going to be in for a bad time. And from my industry, it's 100%. Every guy, even the guys that had their shit tight, the girls know he's in fitness. They know he owns a gym. They know he has to be there. They've never seen him home before 8 p.m. But then they're married, and then all of a sudden they like he's supposed to be there at 6. And they believe that. I mean, their head is, and it causes problems. So try to get ahead of this. And that's basic training.